Denver Broncos star pass rusher Nik Bonitto isn't going anywhere anytime soon. On the day that the 2025 NFL season officially kicks off, news breaks earlier this morning. Bonitto and the Broncos have struck a deal, a 4-year, $120 million contract with a base value of around $106 million, $70 million fully guaranteed for the 25-year-old pass rusher who is coming off a season where he was third in the NFL with 13 and a half sacks. Boomer Sooner. Bonitto has blown up, and his deal that was announced today is the richest deal for any non-quarterback in the history of the Denver freaking Broncos. Great news for Bonitto. Great news for the team. I think this is a striking, a really a fine intersection between what Bonitto is worth, what he would potentially command on the open market, but also not breaking the bank and acknowledging that Bonitto is not quite in that upper echelon of the TJ Watts and the Micah Parsons and the, Mad Max Crosbys, whoever you want to throw in there. He's in that tier right below that. Nothing wrong with that. We could be having a different conversation this time next year, because the thing that separates Bonitto currently from the guys that I just mentioned is just the consistency, right? It's just the consistency. So we've seen Bonitto have a breakout season one time, but that's not to say he's a one-hit wonder in a vacuum. His rookie season coming out of Oklahoma as a second-round pick, he has 1.5 sacks. Young football player, right? But then you see the jump in year number 2 where he gets to 8 sacks. 8 sacks is not anything to shake a stick at. And then in year number 3, he gets to 13.5 sacks. But don't forget, there's even context to how he got there, because, and people can forget, because this is, pretty deep in the rearview mirror. Nik Bonitto was not a starter for the Denver Broncos at the beginning of the 2024 season. For the first 2, 3, 4 games, whatever it was, that was Baron Browning, who was eventually traded to the Arizona Cardinals. So Bonitto was coming into the season in a reserve role and still found a way to make up all that ground and get to third in the NFL in sacks. Holy smokes, what an ascending player. He's so fun to watch. Speed rusher, great bend. Still has some work to do in the run game, but this is a passing league. And when it comes to getting after the quarterback, not many players did it better than Bonitto in 2024. So if you were to look at the team, I think you could actually argue that Nik Bonitto is the third most important Denver Bronco after Bo Nix and then Defensive Player of the Year, Pat Surtain. But Bonitto actually plays a premium position just like Surtain. So if Bonitto can replicate his 2024 season in 2025, maybe we're having a conversation, is he the second most valuable Denver Bronco? That would be a healthy conversation to have if you're debating that between someone like PS2 and Bonitto. So I think that you could fairly argue that. Is that the correct answer? Is he the third most valuable Bronco? He's right there. He's right there in terms of the conversation with someone like, a Zach Allen or someone of that variety. So good stuff for Bonitto and the Broncos. And for me, this is just another signal that the Denver Broncos are all in. The Denver Broncos are adopting an approach of draft, develop, pay. This is the Philadelphia Eagles model. You see these teams all around the league, they draft these guys, they develop them into great players, and then when it gets time to want to pay them, they get gun shy. And as Sean Payton said a couple weeks ago, and I think he was talking about Zach Allen at the time, and he was talking about the Khalil Mack trade years ago. And he's like, the Raiders draft this player, and he's a great player. He's everything that you're looking for, and then it's time to pay him, and you don't want to pay him. And he's like, well, if you don't want to pay that type of player that was best case scenario, turned into best case scenario when you took him on draft night, who are you willing to pay? And I think Bonitto sort of falls under that umbrella of not that they were obligated, but it did feel a bit obligatory. What more do you want? It's a 25-year-old pass rusher who just finished third in the NFL in sacks. And by the way, turning 26 here this fall. So just entering the prime of his career. And you look at the way that the Broncos have conducted business here over the last couple of years, 2 years mainly, right? It's re-signing Quinn Miners. It's re-signing Jonathan Cooper. It's re-signing Pat Surtain. It's re-signing Cortland Sutton. It's re-signing Zach Allen. Outside of Allen, the previous players that I mentioned, those were all drafted and developed players, right? Though Garrett Bowles in there got re-signed by Sean Payton as well. So draft, develop, pay. This is the core of the football team. And what better time to do it than right now while Bo Nix is on a rookie contract? This is that sort of honey hole. Like we think a honey hole in a football play between like the corner and the safety, and if you could drop it in there perfectly, hard to defend, right? The honey hole for an NFL franchise, all right, is when your quarterback is on a rookie contract and you have that few years of windows to really capitalize financially on players like Bonitto and Allen, etc., before your quarterback gets his payday and takes up a lot more of that salary cap space. All right, so the Broncos are living in that hole. Now, that's partially true because they're still absorbing year number 2 of the Russell Wilson dead cap. But they're not letting that deter them from taking care of players like Nik Bonitto. All right, and you'll get to a point in the 2026 season where you're actually still in that window before Bo Nix gets paid, but you're out of the window of the Russell Wilson contract. The Broncos should be top 10 in cap space. So, not to look too far ahead because the Broncos are right on the doorstep of the 2025 season. Shoot, they could go win the Super Bowl. Sean Payton believes that they can. But even to look forward to next year with even more financial flexibility while still living in that window before you pay Bo Nix. So really, really, really exciting window of time here in Broncos country. Now, there is some risk involved. Let's not act like there's completely no risk involved with this deal. And we've talked about this for months on Denver Sports Station 104.3 The Fan. There's risk either way. The risk in saying, you've only done it one time, but we're going to pay you this big boy contract, right? There's risk in that he could be a one-hit wonder in terms of a true breakout season like 13.5 sacks. You think of someone like Shaq Barrett, had an all-time season, Bucks pay him big-time money, and he can't really replicate that sort of production. We would be naive to say that conversation couldn't be applicable to Nik Bonitto in any way. Yeah, you take on that risk because the downside, the other side of the risk coin, if you turn it over, is the risk saying, I want to see more. It's not believable. I need to see it again. And if you do see it again, he's not making an annual average value of $26.5 million anymore, which is currently 10th in the NFL. You're having to pay him $35, $36, $38, maybe $40 million the way that the market is going with the edge rushers. So there was risk either way, but I thought the safest path was to bet on the guy that you drafted, you believed in, had a vision for, and then saw him ascend from 1.5 sacks to 8 sacks to 13.5 sacks. All right? Now, not to say that his next coming season is going to be 17 sacks. It doesn't need to be that. It just needs to maintain close to the production of what he did in 2024. And I think that he will. I think the Broncos are going to be pretty good. I think they'll have second half leads, and he'll be able to pin his ears back and get after the quarterback. And finally, I want to talk about the professionalism that this organization went about in this contract. You think of these other situations around the league. Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati. It's a soap opera. Micah Parsons in Dallas. It's a soap opera. Here, it was quiet. It was professional. It was respectful. It was behind closed doors, the way that business should be done. And I think that speaks to the new ownership in Denver, Colorado. I really do. The Walter Penner family ownership group, Greg Penner mainly, has this operation going in the right direction. Spare no expense, everything first class, but that doesn't just mean financially. That means the way we go about our business is going to be first class as well. And I thought the Nik Bonitto window leading up to today is a perfect encapsulation of that professionalism. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Please give me a like on this video. Subscribe to my channel, Denver Day to Day with Zach By. I would love for you to be on this journey with me in 2025. Thanks for being here. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.